Introduced in 1998 by the Labour Party, the National Minimum Wage Act imposed a minimum wage across the United Kingdom. The intention was to raise the pay of low-income workers and reduce inequality, poverty, and incentivise employment. The initial hourly rates were set at £3.60 for adults aged 22 and over, and £3 for those aged 18 to 22. In contrast, today's minimum wage for workers over 25 is £7.50, £7.05 for workers aged 21 to 24, £5.60 for those aged 18 to 20, £4.05 for workers under 18, whilst apprentices' minimum wage is set at £3.50. The issue with the level of wages is one which is always up for debate. So what does it do? The national minimum wage aims to increase the working population of a country, with the higher rewards for working acting as an incentive for those currently unemployed. The aim to make the difference between what someone could earn as a wage and what they may receive in welfare payments great enough to encourage those who are unemployed to become active in the labour force. Another aim of the minimum wage is to reduce the wealth gap between those on low and high incomes, an aim consistent with the Labour Party's aim throughout recent history. The national minimum wage also increases government revenue, as more people being employed would produce an increase in tax revenue and a decrease in the amount of welfare payments being made. The increase in employment levels will cause an increase in more expenditure in the economy, which causes a positive multiplier effect, meaning that money earned is then redistributed further. In 2017, it was found that minimum wage increases in Britain had led to a 10% pay increase to retail workers within 18 months of the national living wage being employed. It was said that increases in wage had minimal impact on most big retailers, and that the overall cost to labour only rose by 0.3%. It is believed that this data expels the myth that the minimum wage rising was bad for job creation. A graph of the level of employment for people aged 16 to 64 over the past 10 years has shown that the level of employment within the UK has stayed fairly stable despite rising wages. But on the other hand of the argument, small firms are hurt by a higher wage cost, which they may be unable to bear the burden of. The lack of scale economies means that the size of the firm really limits the level of costs they are able to cover. Secondly, cost-push inflation occurs, where prices are increased to reflect increasing wages, and then wages are increased, and then prices, and then wages. You get the idea. Similarly to my first point, low-skilled and low-income workers are put at a major disadvantage by an artificially high wage bracket. The high wage cost for firms reduces the demand for labour, which leaves a new and familiar problem for the economy: unemployment. The issue of purchasing power parity exists, even on a regional basis. The national minimum wage must be levied at a rate which is appropriate for different living costs of living in different areas of the country. The George Mason University in America found that teen employment had been the lowest it has for 30 years. The study considered the factors: a rising minimum wage that could reduce employment opportunity for teens and increase the value in investing in schooling. Also in Canada, after the rise from $1.60 to $14 wages, food prices rose at an estimated 2.3%.